This video is brought to you by Squarespace. If you need a website or domain, go to squarespace.com. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's video. I just got a new camera, and that means setting it up for first use. There are a few settings that I'm sure to change from defaults, so I thought you'd enjoy a video walking you through my workflow, for lack of a better term, for setting up a new camera. Don't leave some of these settings to chance or to the defaults. I'll show you what I use and why. And I'll even show you how to find these settings in major brands like Canon, Sony, Nikon, Fuji, and Panasonic, which you've been asking for. If you stay till the end, I'll show you a hack to increase your battery life by quite a wide margin. My name is Simon D'Entremont, and I'm a professional nature and wildlife photographer living in Eastern Canada. I make weekly videos giving you photo tips or taking you behind the scenes for nature photography. Subscribe if you want to see more. Okay, here's my new camera, a little Canon R100. But my tips will apply to any brand, and I'll try to help you out in finding those similar settings on a few other popular brands. Why did I get the R100 if I shoot mainly full-frame cameras? Well, I wanted a modern APS-C sensor camera for running various tests and comparisons, but also for casual walking around photography, a small camera is ideal. And for making a video like this, I didn't want to overwhelm viewers with the menus that aren't relevant to their situation. Okay, let's get this guy out of the box. Now, don't skip the time setting on a new camera. This should be the first thing you see when you start it up for the first time. In the future, you're going to want to find a photo by date or find the right order of photos in a time lapse, and the time and date will be critical. Make sure you get the daylight savings time right. Okay, now let's dig into the menus. Now, some of these can also be found on the back LCD for convenience, like the autofocus method. But I'll look at the menus for right now. On many newer cameras, you can use a touchscreen to make selections. On others, try the thumb wheel with the outer pad to move around and the center button to select. Now right off, we need to pick between JPEG and RAW as a file type. Pick JPEG if you don't want to process your photos and want them coming out of the camera ready to use with some processing like saturation and noise reduction baked into the file. Set it to RAW if you plan to process your photos further in a program like Lightroom. Here's where you find this setting in major brands. I'll keep showing these, but won't keep them up too long to keep the video going at a decent pace. Pause here to get your camera's menu choices for your brand. Next is the metering mode, where your camera looks in the image to decide on exposure brightness. The whole image, the center, a small point. I recommend avoiding spot, which is tricky to use, and choosing evaluative, also called multi or matrix. This looks at the whole image plus your subject to determine the best exposure. This gives best results out of the box for most people, and that's what I use. While this can be found in the menus, most cameras will have it on the back LCD for easy and fast access too. Now on to white balance. This is to balance out any color cast in your photos, especially visible in the whites, from cold blue to orangey warm tones. Pick auto and you'll get great results most of the time. By the way, if you selected RAW as your file type, you can change the white balance in processing later without any penalty. Another nice reason to shoot in RAW. Here are some other brands and how to find this setting, but most cameras will have it on the back LCD for quick access. Now on to picture style. This is often overlooked. In RAW, this only affects how your photo looks on the back LCD, but for JPEG shooters, this decides what effects are added to your photos in camera. Auto is okay, but for best results, pick a style that suits your genre well. For example, fine detail will add lots of sharpening. That's good for birds, but bad for portraits where you want soft skin. Use portraits for people, as it has low sharpening for soft skin tones. Landscapes are great for blues and greens. Use neutral to best see natural tones and not exaggerate bright whites and dark darks on the back LCD for RAW shooters who want a precise view of the scene brightness. If your camera has lens aberration correction and you shoot in JPEG, turn this on so that effects like vignetting, the natural darkening on the corners of lenses, is fixed in camera. For RAW shooters, this can easily be fixed automatically in programs like Lightroom. I leave it off to speed up the frame rate of the camera, which can be slowed down by too many actions needed to photos before storing them on the SD card. Same with other corrections like chromatic aberration and diffraction correction. On for JPEG and off for RAW shooters is my recommendation. Next, long exposure noise correction. This does work, but doubles the length of long exposures, like several seconds, by taking a second exposure to measure the noise and take it out of the first image. I leave this off as I have a good handle on how to process my raw images. For JPEG shooters, I'd leave this on. Just know that a 20-second exposure like a Milky Way shot will take 40 seconds total. For RAW, I'd leave it off if you're good at processing or have good noise reduction software. Otherwise, leave it on. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. If you haven't heard of them, they're an all-in-one website platform that helps you create your website from scratch, just like I did. You don't need any coding experience, technical experience, or even to be tech savvy at all. They have lots of templates to choose from to make it easy to get your own website up and running in no time. Now, even though they have great templates, like ones for photography that I might use, for example, the place to go now is to use their new Design Intelligence feature, using both Squarespace's experience and cutting-edge AI, helping you to tailor your own website to your own needs. It can even help you write text to describe your business or products, or help you with search engine optimization. It looks really professional to have online galleries and your own domain. And a website is also a great way to monetize your work by setting up an online store using Squarespace payments, which you can set up with just a few clicks. You can take payments from all over the world and even do buy now and pay later with options like Afterpay. Go to squarespace.com to sign up for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Simon for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now for autofocus operation. This one is critical, super critical. In one-shot mode, the camera locks onto a subject and freezes it to that spot. If you shoot a burst of photos, they all have the same focus plane. But if your subject is moving, only the first shot will be in focus and the rest won't, as the focus point isn't moving nor tracking your subject. For that, you want AFC for autofocus continuous on a Fuji, Panasonic, Nikon, or Sony. It's servo or AI servo on a Canon. In this mode, the focus tracks the movement. If you're shooting wildlife or sports or kids playing, you want this latter mode, not one shot. The next one is also very important. Where do you want the camera to look to try to find a focus area? Do you want a small single focus point, a larger area in the middle, or a big large zone? For static subjects, a point is fine. You can place it on your subject or move it around with newer cameras using a joystick or touching the back LCD. For moving targets like wildlife or cars or sports, use a larger zone, as placing a small point on a moving target is too difficult. These are also available on the back LCD on most cameras for quick operation. Newer cameras, especially mirrorless ones, also have subject tracking. Turn this on to get eye detection and subject detection going. These work very well in modern cameras and are great. This camera doesn't have it, but on many of my other cameras, I can also choose between animals, people, etc. Make sure you pick the right one for your genre to get the right eye type found. They don't work well if the wrong subject is chosen. For Canon shooters, a caution. There's a menu item called continuous autofocus. This isn't the same as what I discussed earlier about one-shot and servo. On a Canon, this one means keep tracking the focus of things in the field of view even when you're not pressing the shutter button, like while you're walking around. It came on by default in this camera. Turn this off. Otherwise, you'll drain your battery in no time as the camera keeps refocusing even when you're not taking photos. The next important one is drive mode. Single shot for one photo per click. Continuous to shoot in bursts like wildlife. And here is where you can find timers for when you need to walk into the shot or you want to take a sharp photo with a long shutter speed by not shaking the camera while hitting the shutter button. This one is also often on the back LCD. Now I set mine different than most. I leave it in continuous, even if I want to take just one photo. When I want one photo, I just press and release quickly. On some brands, this can work to take just one pic. Next, on to display settings. Now these can vary a lot by manufacturer. One thing I do recommend is to enable the histogram in the viewfinder if you have a mirrorless camera. A great tool to help you with getting the right exposure. Also enable the level if available. On most cameras, you can get it to appear and hide again by pressing the info or display button. Really handy for landscape photography in particular to get those straight horizons. A handy feature for you to know is where to format the card in your camera. First, Formatting an SD card in the device in which it will be used is best to reduce errors and problems. Second, I like to reformat my cards rather than delete the images from them after every use. It recreates the file structures, and while I can't prove it works, I've shot almost 2 million photos and never ever lost a photo on a bad card, ever. By the way, on some cameras you can program shortcuts to your favorites. I like to put reformat card here. By the way, if you shoot in one-shot autofocus mode, you probably hear a beep to confirm focus. I like to disable that beep. On most cameras, this beep is only for one shot, so you may not hear it if you set in continuous bursts. Now to EVF screen and LCD brightness. I like to set the LCD to 5 out of 7 on a Canon camera and the viewfinder at the 4 out of the 5 scale. On a bright sunny day, you may want to turn them to full to make it easier to see. And on some cameras, you can also use auto. An often overlooked feature is firmware updates. This is the software that runs your camera. Manufacturers will often update the firmware to fix glitches and even add new features. It's easy to do. Download the new firmware to your SD card, put it in your camera, and go to the firmware icon in your menu. Your camera will walk you through the steps. If you have something that doesn't seem to work right in your camera, this is a good first step. Now, one of the most important things to get right on your camera is an easy way to access exposure compensation. If you shoot in AV, TV, program mode, or auto ISO, the ability to change or tweak the exposure slightly brighter or darker is critical, and to do so on the fly is important too. Try to locate this for easy use. On my Canon R5, I have it set to the ring around the mode dial. On this R100, one click up here to the upper part of the back thumb wheel, and then you can move it up and down with the upper wheel. Easy peasy. Now, exposure compensation can be set on most cameras in the menus, but the best way is to locate it on your back LCD or see if your camera has a dedicated button. Look for this black and white symbol. And now you have your camera settings ready to go, but you put your eye to the viewfinder and it's blurry. What? You need to adjust the diopter setting so that the viewfinder is properly adjusted to your vision. Look for a little wheel or a little sliding mechanism. And I promised you a bonus tip. I see people all the time complaining about battery life, yet I routinely get thousands of photos on a battery. What's my trick? There's a few. Now first, your camera may have a power savings mode that shuts off things you're not using or goes to sleep really quickly. I actually don't use this. As with wildlife, the action is quick and I don't want my camera to have to wake up before shooting. Instead, I tackle the things I know don't matter. First, setting the review duration to a low time, like 2 seconds. It's not critical to me and I can hit play to review in more detail if I need to. Second, turn on airplane mode. This disables the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS if you're not using it. I don't need those in the field. Also, some cameras have 2 settings for the EVF performance. Try power savings display performance if you're not using the viewfinder or can live with a lower resolution EVF. And it's winter here in Canada. Remember that after your battery conks out in the cold weather, putting it in your warm pocket will squeeze another 50 photos out of it. If this video is deserving, give it a like and YouTube will show it to even more photographers, helping them get the best from their gear. And I hope that you can use these tips soon to come home with your own unique and amazing photos. I know you can do it.